All right, everybody, let's talk about this first story. Elon Musk claims risk of his assassination is quite significant. And a little bit more than that. He said, quote, "If I committed suicide, it's not real." As soon as I heard him say that, I had to tweet it out. When he was releasing the Twitter files, he said it was going to be at 5 p.m. Then all of a sudden he's like, okay, it's going to be in an hour. Then he goes dark and everyone's like, what's happening? The joke across Twitter was last minute phone call from Hillary Clinton. Haha. So he says, frankly, the risk of something bad happening to me or even literally being shot is quite significant. It's not that hard to kill somebody if you wanted to. So hopefully they don't. And fate smiles upon the situation with me and it does not happen. There's definitely some risk there. I got to say the first thing is, does that seem like the typical reaction from someone who genuinely feels like they'll lose their life? I'm not saying he's wrong or that's not true. I'm saying, I guess you'd expect him to react differently, right?
Abe Lincoln had a similar thing where he was just like, they wanted him to have all his security. He's like, you know what, if they kill me, they kill me. And he had a dream a few nights before he was killed of him walking through the White House. People were crying. And in his dream, he was like, what happened? And they were like, the president's been killed. And then he woke up, Lincoln, and he was like, what? That was weird. A couple of days later, he was shot and killed. So once, I think if you're at peace with yourself, you just have to be your best self and damn be the consequences. But you know, I mean, what, like he said, if everyone in the world wants to kill you, how long can you survive? I mean, 7 minutes?
I don't think it's everyone. I think it's a certain select few of individuals. Some of them, rhyming with Hillary. Sorry.
You just literally said Hillary.
Pardon my friendship. But I think there's Chillery. But I think there's a reason Epstein was trending Friday night when we had the delay of the Twitter files. I think we're living in a society where intelligence agencies do have things like heart attack guns. And if you look at these latest Twitter files, who did they go after? The intelligence agencies that we know were conjuring up lies in order to try to push a narrative and a story and to suppress a story that would make a political party look good, when of course the reality of it was that they were bad, that there was a lot of horrible things. You want to say something?
I want to confirm the source. This is from allthat'sinteresting.com. The heart attack gun fired a dart made from frozen shellfish toxin that would enter the target's bloodstream and kill him in mere minutes without leaving a trace.
This was like in the 60s or 70s, I believe.
1975.
That was, through the commission hearings, the Warren Commission hearings, I believe, if I stand corrected, that there was a lot of disclosure with what the intelligence agencies were doing behind the scenes. And this is decades and decades ago. You can only imagine what they have now. So with Elon Musk saying that he's taking his security, more significantly, taking his security more seriously than before, I mean, obviously he's pissing off a lot of powerful people that do Epstein people. Let's just be real here. Let's just be honest here with ourselves.
You know, one thing that I often thought about with stuff like this in Trump, I heard that one thing I've heard, and we've talked about, the reason Trump likes fast food so much is that when you walk into a McDonald's, the burger's already made. So when you order it, they can't tamper with it. And there's like a fear. I don't know if that's true.
Sounds like that's a gross excuse to eat McDonald's.
It's terrible.
It makes sense.
I don't want to eat it. But yeah,
it's logical.
I mean, I worry about this stuff. Like, you never know. We live in MAGA country, so for the most part, people come out fist bump me and they're really excited. You know, like I'm if I go into like a deep blue area where people are, crazy leftists or whatever, do I got to worry about my food getting messed with or something?
Food is the avenue through which they typically do something like this, which is why we run a tight ship in my kitchens. But it's funny when I hear that about the shellfish, and this is how sick my mind is. I immediately go to like braised shellfish with garlic and white wine and herbs and all of that. With the Elon piece of this, I think two things. Number one, kind of Heisenberg's principle, which I think I'm using this properly, right? The act of observation ultimately affects that of which is being observed. So if he goes out there and throws this out into the public, that act, right? And then under the observation, he could change the trajectory. So get it out there, talk about it, let it be public, and then ultimately that could hypothetically change whether, however you want to look at this, change what's going to happen. But number two, he's a businessman at heart, right? And the more he talks, the more he puts out these kind of hyperbolic statements, the more people are going to go on Twitter, more people are going to tweet about it. I mean, he's driving business by virtue of his own narrative, and it's kind of brilliant because we see the numbers, we see the activity is up, and that ticks everybody off because they talk about how, Twitter's going to shut down this weekend.
Yeah.
And now the headlines came out after he published and produced how successful Twitter was over the past 3 to 4 weeks. Well, that's just a smokescreen. Those are going to go down.
And just a correction, it was the church hearings that really released the information of the heart attack gun and a lot of other horrible things that the intelligence agencies were doing in secret. But we also have to understand that this was Elon responding directly to questions being asked to him, specifically if he's going to be suicidal at any point in time in his life. And this spurred on this reaction, which of course everyone's talking about, as we're still waiting for the Twitter Files 2.0 to be released that we're hearing are in the hands of Barry Weiss. So there's still a lot more. There's some people saying that this was a nothing burger. There's a lot of people saying that this is a huge reveal that I think is going to have significant changes in our society. But it all depends, I guess, where you stand politically.
It's a smoking gun. I mean, the Twitter Files. So one of the things they're mentioning is that the request from the DNC, the specific links, were nudes of Hunter Biden. Now, fair point. I can understand why somebody would be like, yeah, I don't want those up. But why is the DNC making those requests and not, say Hunter Biden for personal reasons? So the first thing you have to consider, the Democratic National Committee was trying to get these private images from a private citizen who was not running for office removed. So when the left comes out and says, Hunter Biden's not the president, not running, he's not relevant. Okay, well then why is the DNC trying to, well, because obviously it's relevant. The second thing is the images corroborate the laptop is real. If someone came out and said, look at this email, you could be, that's fake. How do I know that email's real? Because here's a picture of Hunter Biden in a private, revealing circumstance that he took himself. That was along with it. Okay, not a guarantee the email's real, but it does lend some evidence to the fact. So when the Democrats literally are taking down images of a third party who's not running for office, that's bad. But more importantly, when it came to the laptop in general, the files reveal that they had no policy justification for removing it, argued about how they had no policy justification for removing the laptop story, did it anyway, and then a big mistake Matt Taibbi made, with all due respect, because I think Matt does a great job and I think he's fantastic, Jack Posobiec posted the FEC, the federal election documents from Yoel Roth of Twitter saying the FBI contacted us, said there would be hacked materials related to Hunter Biden. Then they just arbitrarily removed that story? BS. The FBI, like Mark Zuckerberg said, reached out to them and said, the story's coming, get rid of it.
What mistake did Taibbi make? Did he not include that?
Taibbi, he didn't. And he said that I've seen no evidence of government involvement in the censorship of this. And then later, Jack Posobiec posted an FEC document from fec.gov where Yoel Roth was like, yes, they contacted me. Yes, they said the information on Hunter Biden was coming. And to be careful about it. Mark Zuckerberg said the exact same thing.
Yeah, and the New York Post released a story today talking about the FBI's hack and leak operation, which they had weekly meetings with big tech social media companies, and they came to them and they said, hey, Hunter Biden is a target of a hack and leak operation that's going after him before the story even was public. So they probably knew that the New York Post was working on this story. They knew it was going to go public, so they preemptively spread disinformation, spread lies in order to confuse and stop a narrative that would make the oncoming political party look bad. That right there is very, very sinister, nasty actions that are absolutely playing totally unfair when it comes to this political landscape.
And I have to stress, it's not just the FBI. According to this document from fec.gov, he wrote, since 2018, I've had regular meetings with the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, and industry peers regarding election security. He goes on to mention that these expectations of hack and leak operations were discussed throughout 2022. I also learned these meetings that there were rumors that a hack and leak operation would involve Hunter Biden. So to clarify, DHS, FBI, industry peers, the DNI were in contact with Twitter consistently for years, and in 2020 said negative information about Hunter Biden is coming.
Who's this FEC? Who's the I noticed
Yoel Roth.
Okay.
As you can see right here, signed Yoel Roth, head of site integrity, Twitter Inc., December 17th, 2020.
I think that the writing's on the wall with government collusion with big tech. I mean, I think it's obvious and it's becoming more apparent and more legally justified if we're going to make these claims with evidence like this. But when I'm reading the patterns of humanity, what it looks like right now is this is the chance to step up, each of us, because it's like whack-a-mole. The whack-a-mole game. If someone steps up and tries to change society, they get whacked. And that's been happening since Kennedy, I don't know, I'm claiming that. I've got a lot of evidence that Kennedy was... Well, obviously Kennedy was killed, but I'm not saying who did it. I don't know who did it. I know, apparently. Anyway.
There's a lot of theories around that one.
This is where we all have to step up and take some of the focus onto ourselves. Because if we let Elon, we think he's some superhero. He's just a vulnerable guy. So I want to be on, team humanity here.
Yeah, look, I think that where this is going to start to focus is on the private versus public element here, or private versus government element, because what you hear is the argument is, no, well, this is a private enterprise. They were, it was a private citizen. At the time, Joe Biden, he was just a candidate. He wasn't involved with government. And look, this is, a private company. And that's the argument that's being made. But what's really interesting is it was the DNC, which once again, you can claim that it's private, but then you have public government officials as part of the DNC, right? So you have what could hypothetically be considered in more of the business or the corporate world, piercing the corporate veil, right? And by that I mean is that, yes, so you have all of this through this shell company, the DNC, that's private, but then you have public influencers or stakeholders that are on that private committee or that private group that are then influencing this through. So then did you pierce that veil? In the food world, right, as a franchisor, I am responsible by way of new laws for the labor practices of a franchisee. That was a recent ruling, right? And that gets into that kind of that corporate public-private piece of this. And so if in the private business world, I'm responsible as a franchisor for what my franchisee does, even though I have nothing to do with it, by way of just that connection, well, then government should be held to the exact same standard.
There was a very interesting article by Jonathan Turley that was released also that was titled 6 Degrees from James Baker, a familiar figure reemerges with the release of the Twitter files, that details how, a lot of this was centered around, from the very beginning, this whole Russian collusion narrative, this whole larger agenda here from central figures within the federal government that were engineering a lot of this. And when we kind of look at this, we kind of got to ask ourselves, obviously there was some incentive by big tech social media companies to try to make the Democrats win, since the Democrats are more favorable towards big tech monopolies rather than, of course, Republicans that were kind of threatening to put them in check. Threatening in not even a real way, but kind of soft-handed way, kind of hinting at that they might be interested in doing something like the Republicans always do, and then they kind of back off and scared, just like teenagers trying to go up to a girl. That's essentially what a lot of the Republicans did here, and I think this is one reason why to speculate what's really going on here. Is it the private industry or is it the public industry? Who's really responsible here? To me, it doesn't matter. They're all in bed together. A lot of these individuals are working together. A lot of these individuals know that they need to depend on each other. They have blackmail on each other. And to me, this is a no-brainer that they're codifying the elections for their own personal benefit.
But to go along with the private argument, right? Let's galvanize that argument and say, okay, it's all private then, and anybody can do what they want, and that's the argument. It's done. Well, then why are people going after Elon so much? It's a private company. He can do whatever he wants. So you can't kind of scream the sky is falling on one side, but then use the same argument against or for whichever side you're on. And I think that's something that's just being ignored in all of this when the two sides are battling it out.
It was interesting to see the White House response to all of this. They finally decided to release an official statement saying that the Twitter files were, quote, a distraction and old news that are diverting attention from Twitter's, quote, hate and disinformation. So very weaponized, very kind of Orwellian terms used by the White House in response to all of this. And Elon Musk looks like he's not backing down. There's going to be more releases in the future. There's also a lot of rumors that he's going to be starting a medical experts panel that's going to be questioning the government's logic when it comes to health advice. And he also came out recently and talked about how he thinks that the FTX scandal is a lot bigger than what people make it out to be. And he's claiming that it could be nearly $1 billion that was given to Democrats via dark channels with untraceable money. So there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes that we don't know about, but it definitely is a very fascinating battle with Elon Musk saying he's afraid for his life, essentially trying to say that he's not going to be Epsteined.
He was saying that the risk for assassination is real. Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.